Michele Bachmann serving her third term, just moments ago announcing in Waterloo, Iowa that she is running for president. Let's bring in our company, USA Today Washington Bureau Chief Susan Page, and roll call's David Drucker. Well, David, I guess in the early moments of that speech, at least, we're hearing some of the themes that we've come to expect from Michele Bachmann. What do you think?
Well, I think that she sounds remarkably presidential. This is not something that those of us who have covered her in Washington have expected from her. She's been disciplined, she's been engaging, she's been appealing, and I think the question for her is, can she take her obvious appeal in Iowa and extend it to New Hampshire, South Carolina, Florida, Nevada, and beyond, and can she run the kind of smart presidential campaign operationally that it takes to be successful at this level?
Well, Susan, the Politico headline is, she's the real deal. I mean, you have the Iowa poll showing she's virtually tied with Mitt Romney, but the question is, I suppose, even if she wins Iowa, does she become the Mike Huckabee of 2012?
Well, as we know, Mike Huckabee won Iowa, but then didn't manage to build on that success with broader electorates elsewhere. We have a different Republican Party this time, though, than we had 4 years ago. The energized part of the Republican Party is the Tea Party movement. Michele Bachmann really speaks to those folks. I think Iowa becomes a battle for who emerges as the standard bearer for the Tea Party. And at the moment, with this very interesting Des Moines Register poll, I think it's clear that Michele Bachmann's in a very good place to claim that mantle. Then we'll see a showdown later on in other states, maybe in the Florida primary, for whether she could then take on somebody like Mitt Romney.
Yeah, and actually, David, I mean, this poll is one of, I guess you could call it a trifecta, because she outperformed what people expected of her in the debate, first of all. She is a prolific fundraiser. We're expecting pretty good numbers from her on Thursday when they have to report. Has she been underestimated, or is it easy to exceed expectations when they're low?
Well, I think both, but I also think it's because House candidates, House members of Congress as opposed to members of the Senate, aren't usually successful when they're running for president. Even Ron Paul in 2008, with all of the money he raised and all of the grassroots appeal, never registered much in the actual voting. And I think what we're going to find out about Michele Bachmann within the next couple of months is, can she take a punch? And when people figure out she's for real and start going after her, can she handle it, adjust, and stay at the top of the race? And I think the one thing about the Iowa poll I'd say is interesting is everybody knows Mitt Romney isn't competing in Iowa, and yet he's still at the top, which shows you how early this is.
Well, that poll also shows, Susan, that Tim Valenti is behind Herman Cain. I mean, he's practically been living in Iowa for almost a month, and he's had only one real moment of this campaign, I would argue, Obamacare, and then he backed away. But this morning on Morning Joe, he was asked, did you wimp out on that? Here's what he said.
I'm an old hockey player. I've probably been in more fights than the rest of the folks on that stage combined, so the idea that I'm not tough enough to take on Mitt Romney or anyone else in the debate is ridiculous. We just decided in that moment, I decided in that moment, to focus on President Obama rather than the rest of the Republican field.
All right, just so no one's confused, that actually was the Today Show. But, Susan, what's going on with him?
Well, you know, he clearly made a mistake in that first debate when he ducked the idea of pressing his charge against Mitt Romney when he was next to him on stage. But to build on a point that David made, it's early in this process. That was the first big debate. We're going to have more big debates to follow through this summer. He'll have a chance to recover. But he has failed. If Michele Bachmann's exceeded our expectations so far, I think it's fair to say Tim Valenti so far has fallen below the high expectations that we had, that he could emerge as the guy who was really an alternative to Mitt Romney. He hasn't done that yet. We should remember it's still early.
All right, Susan Page, David Drucker, thanks to you, and we're keeping our eyes and ears on Waterloo, Iowa. We'll keep you posted on Michele Bachmann. We'll be talking more about that today.